Have you ever stopped to think about this? That a physical book and a screen are two completely different objects to your brain? I don't mean just a little different. I mean neurologically, fundamentally, a whole different ballgame.
And that's what's so weird about it, right? The information, the story, the facts, they are identical, letter for letter.
The really unsettling part is, you don't even feel it happening. You might think you're learning just as much from a screen, but the data, well, the data tells a very, very different story. So let's dive into this.
Okay, get this. Researchers looked at thousands of kids from all over the world and found something absolutely shocking. Children who grew up in homes filled with physical books, they completed an average of 3 extra years of school. That's not a small bump. That is literally the difference between a high school diploma and a university degree.
That's the first question that pops into your head, isn't it? I mean, we live in a digital world. Surely a house packed with ebooks would give you the same incredible advantage.
No, not at all. Researchers checked, and the effect was just gone. Homes with tons of ebooks showed zero positive link to how well kids did in school. There was something about the physical books themselves that was making all the difference.
And that finding, that was just the tip of the iceberg. It forced scientists to really start questioning a very basic assumption we've all had about reading.
You know, for the longest time, we all figured a story on a Kindle is the same as a story in a paperback. It's just more convenient. But it turns out the container, the medium itself, it changes everything.
And look, this isn't based on some small one-off study. In 2024, researchers pooled together a massive meta-analysis. We're talking 49 separate studies covering thousands of readers from little kids in elementary school all the way up to college students. The result was crystal clear. Across the board, print readers consistently understand more than their digital reading friends.
Okay, so we know what is happening, but the big question is why? To figure that out, scientists started by literally watching our eyes to see what they're doing when we read.
Using these super precise eye-tracking devices, they saw 2 totally different patterns. Reading on paper, that's like being an explorer in a new country. You kind of skim ahead to see what's coming, then you circle back. You reread tricky parts, you're building a mental map. Digital reading is more like being a commuter. You just keep moving forward, one direction, rarely looking back.
And this all comes down to a really cool idea called embodied reading. See, a physical book has a landscape. You can feel the weight of the pages you've read versus what's left. Your brain creates these little spatial landmarks. You might remember a key idea was on the left page near the top. But on an endless digital scroll, every part looks the same. There's no sense of place, nothing for your memory to hook onto.
And this has real, measurable consequences. In one study, after people read the exact same article for the exact same amount of time, the print reader scored 24% higher on comprehension. Now that is not a small gap. Let me put that in perspective. That's the difference between getting an A- on a test and a C+. It's huge.
So, eye movements are one piece of the puzzle, but what's actually happening inside our skulls, to find that out, we have to go deeper, and luckily, scientists have the tools to do just that. So they hooked people up to EEG machines to measure their brain activity, and the difference was night and day. Reading on paper produces beta and gamma waves. That's the signature of your brain being locked in, deep focus, problem solving. But the moment you switch to a screen, your brain shifts to theta and alpha waves. That's the pattern for light focus, even mind wandering. Your brain is basically just idling.
And here's the wild part. This efficiency means print readers can actually read 10 to 30% faster than digital readers, all while absorbing more. It's not because they're skimming, it's because their brains are literally optimized to process the information on paper more effectively.
So, why? Why does our brain do this? Well, researchers have boiled it down to 3 big interconnected reasons that explain why we struggle so much to really learn from screens. Think of it as a triple whammy working against you. First, screens just create a higher cognitive load. Your brain isn't just dealing with the words. It's also managing the scrolling, fighting off notifications, and trying not to lose its place. Second, like we saw, there are no embodied anchors, no texture, no weight, nothing for your memories to grab onto. And third, our digital lives have trained us in a shallowing habit. We're conditioned to just skim and hunt for keywords, not to actually read deeply.
Now, all this is concerning enough for adults, but for developing brains, the implications are way more serious. MRI scans show that kids who read physical books literally have stronger connections in the parts of their brain that handle language, and in one study with 5-year-olds,
Just 6 weeks of watching stories on a screen instead of reading them from a book was enough to create attention patterns that looked a lot like ADHD.
All of this builds to what is, honestly, the most troubling finding of all, especially for those of us who think we've got a pretty good handle on our digital habits.
Here's the crazy twist. When researchers ask people how well they think they understood a text, the people who read on a screen consistently say they feel more confident, but their actual test scores? They're lower. They understand less, but they are absolutely convinced they understand more.
This has a name. It's called a metacognitive failure. The digital medium actually creates an illusion of knowing, and it breaks your brain's ability to accurately judge how well it's doing. And that is incredibly dangerous when you're trying to learn something complex. Now, let's be clear. None of this means screens are evil. If you're skimming the news, looking up a quick fact, checking a recipe, screens are amazing, efficient tools. But the crucial takeaway is this. When the material is complex, when it's something you truly need to stick in your brain, you should reach for paper.
The key is just being deliberate. Technology is a powerful tool, for sure, but physical books are a priceless gift that builds better brains and deeper understanding. So, knowing what you know now, when it really matters, how are you going to choose?